Did anyone ever teach you how to be creative? Have you ever been asked to think outside the box and realize that you lack the tools to be your own artist? What if I told you that most of us don't realize our creative potential because we were never taught creativity as a process that leads from abstract ideas to final products? Everyone can become more creative and improve their skills through unique knowledge, concrete tools, and practices. This book, this interview, will offer just that to all of you who are a part of any creative discipline. Whether a student, professional, or a teacher, it will help you become more innovative and give you an advantage in your field by teaching you how to work with inspiration and translate your interior world and feelings into reality to achieve the success and creative freedom that you always wanted. Let's dive together into creativity and redesign our lives. Hi everyone, thank you very much for being here. I'm Moshe. Before everything, I'm a child who dreams and wants to have the freedom to dream without limits. I was like that since my childhood, and I kept that quality throughout my all adult years and professional life. As I said in the beginning, I'm an architect, a designer, an interdisciplinary artist, and I work mainly across Europe and across the world. I was born in Haifa, Israel, and after many years of wandering in the world, I came back to the same route, same place in front of the sea as I was a child. Still enjoy the same sunset as I used to watch when I was a kid. But today, it is the place where all my projects are born. I wandered around Europe. I studied 6 years in Florence, Italy. I lived in Berlin for many years and worked there as an architect, also in Portugal. I came back to Israel about 5 years ago, and that became my base. A life in motion, either it's physical, geographical, or inside of yourself, creates a mind in motion. It develops your sensitivities. Everything is always new for you. You learn to love the unknown. You discover each time and envision the world behind your horizon. There is always new limits that you cross within yourself or in places. So basically, a dynamic life brings you all the skills that a creator needs. I believe in creativity and the creative process, and the search for the new that seeks to get through us as co-creators in the world. The second principle of my philosophy is love and empathy, to work and to have the well-being of others in your mind before you even start your project. And the third principle would be a dynamic life and dynamic work, which means inside yourself, the tension that you keep inside yourself, but also a physical dynamics in the world. I believe in creating spaces that respond to human emotions and spiritual needs, not just technical. I believe in creating healing architecture, healing spaces. For example, some of my projects that dealt with these themes are the light drops in Helsinki, the architherapy, the Sansitarium, the open church, the school in Impruneta, Italy, where I worked with 200 children to understand the mind and the soul of children and respond with the space to their needs. Creativity for me is the way I choose to look at the world. It starts with my perception. The different dimensions I seek to discover in my reality. It is also the way I choose to interpret the world. What do I do with the new findings of that dimension that I discover? And the third is the way that I act in the world. How do I plan and design and move in the world as a creative person? For me, creativity is an awareness, which means to see reality as a recommendation. We don't look at things with our finite and final concepts, but we try to look at reality as infinite options to be and that were not discovered yet. To seek beauty in all things. To be in a hunger for inspiration, a constant search, almost a need as a hunter for inspiration. I believe that we are born to be creators. We are born to be creative. And we have all the qualities already innate in us. And that is, in my opinion, our life's purpose. And for me personally as well, I believe that this is my purpose in the world. As a child, I used to be very creative. I was playful, and I had my inner imaginary world was very vivid and active. In high school, I started architecture studies when I was 16 years old. This is when I developed my passion and love for architecture since then until today. I studied then in Florence, Italy, the university. That experience changed my life completely, mainly because of the city, the inspiration that the city gave me, and facing all this multidisciplinary art and creativity. Back then I developed my philosophy and imagined all the projects I wanted to do one day. Today I'm living the dream, basically. I feel that everything I dreamt of when I was a student is now becoming reality. After university, I started working in different practices, offices, and until 6 years ago when I started my own practice. And now I have my own clients, and I am totally free to imagine and create and design whatever I feel and dream of. I was on the move since childhood until today. I am continuing moving. It's who I am. The traveling itself, I see in it as a chance of being a discoverer. A day before a trip, I imagine how I become a kind of a Christopher Columbus of a new search of the new world. This revelation moment, anticipation for the new, the curiosity that burns inside me, the discovery moments, how everything you see, people, colors, buildings, all senses become alive. It fills you up like a storm all at once. Every corner is a gate to discover a new wow moment. It's a rush, adrenaline rush of excitement. I guess the child in me takes control when I travel. The society may be more materialistic for survival needs, but the single people I meet become more and more spiritual. They will change society very soon. I know that. I always felt a bit stranger and a bit of belonging everywhere. And as a constant wanderer in the world since childhood, I learned that this conflict, the eternal question of mine, what is a home, is something that will never get a final answer. I will never have my place. I will have to be always in motion. It means that I have to come to the understanding that I am my place. I am my home, or together with the people who love me, it becomes a home. My parents are the biggest supporters since I was born, with everything I did. It's what you call unconditional love. I'm lucky to be their child. They gave me a lot of strength, even in times they didn't understand my path. They are, of course, proud, I hope so, of me being an architect. And since they know that I am a bit different, they must have guessed I would be a different kind of architect as well. So, and they guessed right. This book is a result of 25 years of research, studies, practice, and me trying to find my own creative process. When I was in university, I was hoping someone could help me learn about creativity and how to become my own artist, and how to translate my inner world into concrete solutions. But no one could. So I was basically cast to a lonely path, but an amazing one as well, to discover all the possible fields of studies as philosophy, psychology, arts, biology, music, and so on. And it took me years to find my own method and technique that will lead me to innovative solutions each and every time. Once I found my method, I started teaching others, experimenting with them, learning with which problems they face, which blocks they have, and how I could help them. After teaching so many students and professionals about the creative process during these years, in different institutions from different countries and cultures, I can finally say that it works, almost as a miracle. People who say, we're not creative, and they realize already in the middle of the process how amazingly creative they actually are. Once I saw all these success stories I have mentioned and mentored, I decided that I want to give others that thing that I've discovered and made my professional and personal life so beautiful. I wrote this book out of love to people. I would love to make them happy by bringing them closer to their creativity and work through inspiration and love to others as well. I think that's my own way of changing the world. The book is for everyone who seeks to become more creative, to understand what creativity is. It is meant for professionals from all creative fields, if it's design, architecture, arts, especially for young professionals and students who seek answers in the first stages, and no one can help them. No one can understand what they want and how to get to a concrete process and controlled process of creativity. The book is meant for educators who wish to teach their students about creativity through inspirational motivation. The book is meant for everyone who wishes to get closer to inspiration and creativity, for everyone who is curious about it and senses the need to change their lives. We already know that creativity is humanity's most precious resource for our present and for our future. So this book will definitely help you rediscover the creativity within you. We are all born as small, screaming, crying, potential living beings who can become everything we want to be. Anyone can do art. Anyone can become everything. It's our life's journey and our choices that changes our potential. We choose to follow some paths that lead us to some places and so forth. We go away from all possibilities more and more towards specific things. Most people don't realize that they can change, but they do. They can be artists. I personally don't believe in the idea that people need to be born with something to do art. Art or creativity is a constant open door to let anyone in. There is no one standing outside selecting just the best ones to enter the party. We are all invited in. Inspiration is everywhere for me. Through my eyes, Inspiration lies in each detail or situation. It surrounds us constantly and awaits us to be discovered. It is always there, almost as a pink, beautiful cloud, and it awaits just for us to put our special glasses on and see these new amazing colors and possibilities. Once you recognize the voice of inspiration and its message, you start a process of gradual translation from your interior world into the real physical world outside, so others can see and feel the same thing as you. It is very important to keep the inspiration alive all the way through the process, and ask yourself in each step, is it still screaming to me with the same intensity? Once we work through inspiration in all levels of our creation, it will inspire others and lead to an incredible impact. Spirituality in my process begins with an awareness state. First, I am in the now, which is the time of spirituality, to be in the now and act from sort of a freedom from past and future thoughts. Also, to see the connection of all things in their larger scale, not just the interior relations, but also the connection to the universal relations of each project or everything that you do. Another aspect of spirituality in my work is the no ego state. Instead of judging or strengthening my own persona, I'm trying to be just a co-creator, just a bridge, a vessel of some message that wants to get through me to reality and express itself. I also get in a dialogue with things. For example, with a stone or a bridge that I'm referring to or planning. Almost an impossible dialogue between two existences. And I imagine there what happens if I ask questions and the objects or the places respond to me. I also live situations and things trying to consider them without any judgment or any known knowledge or fixed notion. When I look at a flower, I don't consider it to be a flower. I try to forget the language or the words and just see what happens when two things just exist and coexist next to each other, and what kind of insights or feelings do I get from it. In my work, in architecture and design, I try to bring spirituality into spaces by trying to connect the man that visits the space with the infinite rules or infinite elements of the universe. For example, in projects where I connect spaces to the sun or the stars or the ocean or something that provokes the sensation of infinity in us. And that's the place where our soul is reacting to the space. And by that infinite connection, architecture becomes spiritual. I sometimes ask myself questions that almost make no sense. For example, what does this thing dream of being? That question is a beginning of a creative state because there is no rational response to it. This question provokes a creative response. I try to change my awareness to a child's awareness, to a poet's awareness, to a spiritual awareness, and start to look at things through a different perspective. Sometimes I change my scale and experience life through a different scale. For example, if I put myself in the eyes of an ant and just ask myself, how does it feel, or what life does an ant have? I try to delete the language and experience things without words. almost as a meditation. I become playful and do absurd things. All these things are small practices that I do every day in my personal life, and it brings me immediately into a creative state. For everyone who starts going back into creativity, I can tell you that many students and young professionals I've encountered and mentored, the first biggest challenge is how to reconnect to inspiration, where to find it. And then the next challenge is what to do with it. Okay, now I'm inspired. What do I do with all this information and all these sensations? How do I translate them? Because it's very abstract. How do I translate it into something concrete? But not just for me to understand it, but also for others to feel and understand the same things as I did. Other challenges are ego and fears. When we start learning creativity, we need to understand that we are facing our ignorance in a way. There are so many things we don't know yet, and all the roles of security we have taken upon our lives don't work anymore here in the process. So we have to face the ego that tells us that we are the greatest, we are perfect. We have to put it aside for a long sleep and be more authentic. There are a lot of fears coming up in the process. For example, the fear of getting lost in the way by researching, and usually people want to see results immediately right away, but they have to become more comfortable in facing the unknown, the infinite desert of information. So with it comes the fear of the unknown. Another challenge is maintain the passion for change and for the innovation that will come at the end of the process. I can tell you that, yes, there are a lot of challenges in the beginning, but I can assure you that at the end of it lies your best version, the better person of yourself, the more creative person, the more sensitive person, the more aware person with higher skills to face life. In the book, I write about the responsibility of our environment to endorse the creativity of the individual. It is not just our own mission. I mean, yes, it is our responsibility as individuals to become as creative as we can so we can make life better. But there is also the responsibility of society and the company. In that sense, the company needs to introduce new feedback systems, new brainstorm methods, introduce some absurd or outside-the-box thinking, bring everyday small gestures or events that show an authentic wish of the company to create unexpected environments with the quality of surprise and discovery. It's a positive, unknown situation where people are challenged to think differently. All these things and more, companies and societies can create and give to individuals to endorse their creativity. A mad person can be a relative concept. It can be an objective state of someone who lost contact with reality, and sometimes a person is considered mad is just too early for its time. 13 years ago, a professor in Italy called me mad for thinking that I could plan a school or a bridge the way I planned it. Today, the technology exists and it's actually very simple to do. I believe a true creator is someone who controls what he does, is aware and changing, modeling his reality with consciousness where nothing is left out, where your mind, your heart, your spirit, everything is there, in their full potential, focused and free. working together like a team inside of you to produce the highest form of expression that you can. If you leave your mind out, it will look like a passionate runner without legs. A madman doesn't understand what he is doing. He doesn't accept reality at all, most of the time. I don't believe in madness as the highest limit of creativity. So for me, a true creator is someone who managed to balance all his parts and bring them into action in harmony and maximum interior freedom with no ego, but being aware of his existence. So the first step is to open up, just to be ready to start a process without any ego, any active ego. Put it aside, put it asleep, and just reconnect to the child within you. You start with small steps, small gestures, where you teach yourself to look at life, at things differently, but also act differently. Just be ready to become a playful person. The method gives all people concrete, practical, and controlled tools for reaching their goals through creativity. In my lectures, I give those tools to investors, CEOs of big companies, managers, developers, workers, and startups, to simple private people and artists or designers as well. It came to me from childhood, through instinct, but as a serious method, I started developing it from the age of 16. As I began with architecture studies and had to find my own voice, my own sign, my own way, my process, well, it took me almost 20 years of personal research, 20 years of passion towards architecture and creativity, which was my fuel to keep me going and looking, how do I pass from inspiration to a final product, to space, to a building? Or just looking at my reality in different ways, find new solution in general for all sorts of challenges. Challenges that every one of us meets in his professional and personal life. I have felt the connection to creativity as a source since childhood, intuitively. I was a bit of a different child who preferred to be alone at the beach watching the clouds, changing shapes and imagining what they are, than playing football with others. I started painting at a very young age. I wrote my own first biography at 12, calling it My Life as a Human. It was a 40-page biography of me describing my everyday life in a very creative way to someone who doesn't know what it means to be a human being. Of course, thanks to my brother, who was a great painter, and I envied him. So I started painting as well, dreaming of being better, as small brothers always do. So there was something very powerful connected to me and led me towards a life's journey just to find it consciously as well. To feel it, but to use it, to control it, to be able to work with it in everyday life or in my profession. And as I say in my lectures, I am still in this journey. It's an endless one. The more I develop as a person, I find new dimensions of creativity, and the connections become bigger, stronger, and clearer. Many people in my lectures ask me, what is creativity for me? Because it's not so obvious for a lot of them what they have to look for. So it becomes conscious once you are able to accept the fact that reality is just a recommendation. Whatever you see or experience through your senses, it can be a different thing if you want it to. For example, I hold a glass in my hand and ask simply what they see. We see a glass, they say. So I answer, sure, but if I ask a child what he sees in my hand, he could answer at least 5 different things. A glass could be for him his best friend, a toy, a car, an airplane to play with, a superhero he sees in the glass saving the world. A glass is a glass just as a recommendation, same as reality. It can be everything through the creative mind. As an architect, I use my method in my work every day. I use this method automatically by now. It became an integral part of my whole system. I managed to plan and implement different and interesting projects. The first one was at the age of 17. I planned the first Japanese restaurant where I lived, with the concept of being a small theater where people sit around the center in different levels, where the cooks are actors, and the kitchen is the main stage for the show to look at. A theater of food, where the dialogues are created by the preparations and cooking, mushrooms flying in the air together with dramatic noodles. I planned skyscrapers and residences and huge complexes. But the most important emotional project I've ever done was the tombstone after the death of my grandmother. I loved so much. My mother gave me the task to design the marble stone shapes. I was 17 or 18 years old. It is interesting because it has one important line I did in the stone, a line that cuts the straight stone and creates a movement towards the sky. This line goes with me until today in all my projects. In every stage of my life, I get the fortune to discover new people I get inspired from. I mostly get inspired by revolutionary people or those who were too early for their times, like Dante Alighieri, Michelangelo, Roberto Benigni, Bob Dylan, Heidegger, Nathan Altman, Amos Oz, Beethoven, Salvador Dali, Pina Bausch, Wim Wenders, Osip Mandelstam, John Coltrane, and, my grandmother, who was the most creative person in the world. She was pure light. She knew how to create love. That's her biggest creativity. I am also inspired by the creative person who wrote the first sentence of the Genesis in the Bible. I don't know who he was, but there was a first one. I get inspired by his character in my mind. Alone in front of the white empty page, a second before becoming the most important and known sentence in the history of humans, the first sentence of creation. I keep thinking about that second before writing. In the beginning, God created the skies and earth. Creativity is a dimension. Once you get connected, once you feel it, you cannot be disconnected ever again. So I feel it all the time. I'm always in that state. If I get distracted, I only need to look at the clouds or choose to close my eyes and draw one line, and I am back there. The secret or the technique for those who are not in practice of it is very personal, but it helps if you just imagine yourself as a child. Bring the good memories of the times where you were free of all the realities we live in as adults. Sometimes it's a conscious change of an everyday habit. Look inside things or what's underneath them. Try to order a different coffee than usual. Break your automatic routine practically. In my work, I use a question, the same one all the time. That's my secret. What does this thing, this city or this building, dream to be? It knows what it is. It needs to understand through us what it dreams to be. Once you answer, no matter what answer, as long as it's not reality, you get connected. I dream of influencing people and bring their creativity out so they can change the world and make it a dream come true for them and for others. A place which is a result of people's dreams, basically. I dream of growing as a person and do what I love to do each day. I dream of dreaming and realizing them. I learned psychology and keep learning about it. I found the human mind amazing and want to know as much as I can about it, how it works. I did also meetings and sessions with psychologists in different periods of my life. I felt like I took my mind and soul to a spa. I am in an active process of my life right now of strengthening my spiritual practices. I have a guide. She helps me gradually to grow as a spiritual being and reach higher levels. I always felt the architecture practice as a spiritual one, because there is a stage where you put your ego aside, let yourself become a channel of information, and architecture goes through you to the real world. I felt as a translator of the message. It is an amazing spiritual feeling. Those are the strongest moments I felt in my life. If I have free time, I love to go to the beach and watch the sunset. I try to do it every week. If I have just a few moments, I look at the clouds. I like to read, listen to music, meet friends, travel. I create the time for all of this. It's what gives me the quality and freedom I need to get back to balance. The main purpose of my creativity and the lectures about it is to help people connect to this infinite source of their success. By seeing the world differently, by understanding the potentials, by applying creativity in their personal and professional life, people will be able to make a better place for themselves and for others as well. Okay, so the book is available on Amazon, the digital version, and the printed version in paperback in color or in black and white. It is also available in the biggest bookshops as well. Just look for the title, Into Creativity, Choose to Redesign Your Life. I would love to hear from you all listeners, so please keep in touch. Send questions or challenges or any response or feedback. I will be happy to hear from you and to answer to you all. So that's my promise. I am on LinkedIn, on Facebook under Moshe Katz. My website is moshekatz.net. On Instagram, it's Moshe Katz Architect. And my email is moshekatzarch@gmail.com. I hope to talk to you soon and wish you all a creative day full of inspiration.